Hello YouTube, my name is Kinnery, and I'm bringing you the first episode of Kombo King, a series on various combos in the trading card game Dragoborne. Today, I'm going to discuss one of the cards I am really excited for once the first set comes out, Albert Plague Spreader. I'm going to go through 5 combos from the cards that have been spoiled, as well as a general overview of what Albert does and some strategy tips. This is my first video on YouTube, so please bear with me. Without further ado, let's get started. When Albert was first spoiled, I knew that he would be a staple in black decks. He's a 5/5 for 5 with 2 pretty good abilities, plus look at that artwork! Albert's first ability is that whenever he attacks, all of your creatures, including himself, gain Deadly for the turn. Deadly is an ability that says when this creature deals damage to a creature, destroy it. If you've played Magic the Gathering before, it's basically Death Touch. This is an extremely powerful ability when used properly, and today I'm going to go through various combos that use it very well. The second ability is also very powerful. When Albert is Dragocross with a black die, you can discard a copy of him to destroy an opposing creature on the battlefield. This is a great ability as if you're using Albert, generally speaking, you don't need another one on the battlefield, because that means his first ability is redundant. It is especially good late game when there's a large chance that all of your forts are filled with creatures. This means that your spare Albert isn't a dead card in hand, and you can destroy your opponent's biggest threat. Now let's go into some of the cards that combo well with Albert. First, I'm going to start off with a combo that applies to a group of cards. Cheap cost creatures. Generally speaking, cheap creatures have low attack and endurance in exchange for their cheap cost. In Dragoborne, cheap creatures are especially useful because in the early game, they'll allow you to be able to target forts and take away barriers very early. However, they quickly get outclassed in the late game when your opponent has access to more resources and thus larger creatures. Albert is a way to close the gap. Imagine this: you have an aggressive deck and quickly knock down 2 of your opponent's forts, or 4 barriers. You can taste victory. They only have 2 barriers left. However, after your early onslaught, you don't have very many creatures left. Enter Albert. Normally, if you attack a fort and your opponent's creatures block in this situation, you would lose your creature, but their creature remains. However, Albert evens the playing field. Now if your opponent's creatures block, they also die with yours. In reality, your opponent lost the battle, since they most likely spent many more resources than you did for that creature that you just killed. Take that, Terrax. Another group of cards that goes well with Albert are low attack, high endurance creatures. I'm talking about cards like Earthen Guard Golem and the Keeper. Let's say you are in the mid game. You've established some creatures and have defended well with them. Now you decide to go on the offensive. Normally, attacking with one of these creatures isn't worth much, since they don't have enough attack to kill an opponent's creatures that they choose to block. In essence, if you choose to attack, you're just losing out on a possible defender. But if you attack with Albert first, all of a sudden, if your opponent blocks, your creature will survive while theirs won't. Now, you either kill a creature or a barrier out of your attack, and most likely your creature will still survive. Now there are 2 cards I want to highlight that are both in this category. The first is Azraeus, Blade of the Justicar. Azraeus has 2 abilities. The first is Invade Red, which prevents it from being blocked by creatures stationed at a red fort. Needless to say, if you want a chance to kill a creature, don't attack a red fort. The second ability is what makes it a great card in combination with Albert though. If it's Dragocross with a yellow die, when it attacks you may draw a card. That is really powerful on its own, as it has immediate card advantage. There are 3 recognizable downsides to it though. The first is the Dragocross itself, as you lose the die. The second is that when you attack, you lose the opportunity to block with it, where its 6 endurance stops nearly anything in its tracks while still being able to survive. The last one is when you attack with it, unless you attack a red fort, you won't gain anything unless your opponent blocks with a creature with 2 or less endurance. As a result, its on-paper value is only truly seen when your opponent has a red fort. However, this all changes with Albert. Now since Azraeus has Deadly, you're guaranteed even more card advantage with every attack. Along with the card that you receive off of its Dragocross ability, you also get either a dead creature or a barrier. In my opinion, that value outweighs the original drawbacks of the card. The second card that pairs well with Albert in this category is Telios, erstwhile Guardian. Telios has two abilities as well. Its first ability is that when it deals damage to a creature or fort, you can siphon to and rest an opposing creature. This already good ability becomes even better when it has Deadly, since it puts your opponent in a very tough situation. Furthermore, with its second ability, where if it is Dragocross with a blue die, it basically is a free attack that either takes a fort or kills a creature. Even more value. Plus, this card has another combo that I will discuss later on in the video. Now, onto specific cards. The first card I want to touch on is Carefree Orc. This little guy is a 2/1 for 2 that reads whenever it attacks, it deals 1 damage to any creature. This is an extremely good effect when paired with Albert, as Deadly's effect is whenever this creature deals damage to another creature, it dies. That means it doesn't have to be combat damage, it can be any type of damage. As a result, if you attack with Carefree Orc when it has Deadly, the 1 damage it deals will kill any creature, even your own if you want. At the very least, it is a 2-for-1 that kills your opponent's largest creature for sure. And if your opponent lets it live to fight another Carefree day, you can repeat the process next turn. But now you say, you don't want to just kill one creature, you want to kill at least a couple. Well, my friend, you're in luck. The answer lies in the hidden art of ninjutsu, specifically Hidden Arts Water's Edge Shuriken. Hidden Arts Water's Edge Shuriken gives all of your creatures Assassin for the turn. This means that all of your creatures can attack your opponent's rested creatures without being blocked by Drago Shields or other creatures. Now, all of your creatures are not only deadly, but they're deadly assassins. What this means is that instead of leaving the decision to your opponent about what creature can die when you attack, you get to choose. You can either pick off 1 or 2 creatures or even wipe the entire board. One thing to understand though is that this is like normal combat. This means even though the creature is rested, it still defends, from my understanding. That means if you attack with a creature that would normally die when blocked by it, it still dies. But this means that you have targeted removal. Still very useful. And again, it works really well in concert with creatures that have high endurance and low attack. Some cards that pair well with these two are cards that rest other cards, like EMP, All Guns Blazing, Dismantle, and Telios. Telios in particular stands out as its effect is repeatable, and that means you don't have to play it on the same turn that you do with Hidden Arts Water's Edge Shuriken. Plus, like I said, it's a creature with high endurance and relatively low attack. But Kinnery, I want to kill all of my opponent's creatures. Well, you're in luck again. This is the combo that I am most excited about to pair with Albert. I was saving the best for last, and here it comes. It's Sarg, Renowned Bladesmith. This card is like an evolved version of Carefree Orc. Same stats, but a larger effect. Sarg's effect reads, when it is summoned, Siphon 1. This is required, but the payoff is worth it. The secondary effect is that when it is destroyed, it deals 1 to all opposing creatures and Drago Shields. Remember how Carefree Orc could kill anything when it is deadly and attacks? Well, if Sarg is deadly and it dies, then it kills everything. I mentioned earlier that with Carefree Orc, you can target your own creatures as well. Well, this is one way to destroy Sarg during your turn when it would have deadly. Another way is through Agil, the Dark Reigns, which has a lot of combo potential in its own right. With Agil's effect, you can either sacrifice Sarg or bring it back from the graveyard. Either way, its effect will trigger and wipe your opponent's board. This combo is the first real board wipe that I've been able to construct, and if you're really planning on ruining your opponent's day, you should run it. Before I end the video, I want to give some general remarks on these combos and some strategy tips for using Albert in general. I believe that Albert can fit into any deck running black, from aggro to control. In aggro, he's a really good top-end card to end your curve, as by the time you want to cast him, you really want to close out the game, and Deadly is a great way of making sure that you remain relevant if the game goes longer. In fact, if you're a fan of the Shadow Legion deck that will be coming out soon, I recommend either adding him to the deck by replacing Velistra, or running him in concert with Lady Velistra. But I'll go over that in the future, when I analyze all 3 of the trial decks. In mid-range, he is a good tempo card in combination with Hidden Arts Water's Edge Shuriken, and in control, he is good to break a board stall and open up the board with his second ability. One final thing is that a caveat for most of these combos is that the fort you attack can't have a Drago shield, as most of the abilities discussed don't work if your creature is blocked by a Drago shield. But this actually works in your benefit. The thing about Drago shields is that they automatically block an attack, no matter what. Albert is a very powerful card, and when it hits the battlefield, you know for sure that your opponent will want to get rid of it. One easy way to do that would be to block Albert with a creature with 5 attack. However, if you attack a Drago shield with Albert first, his 5 attack is almost guaranteed to destroy it, and if he is Drago crossed, it will destroy it for sure. And since a Drago shield automatically is chosen as a blocker, this means that your opponent can't block with the creature. And since his ability activates on his attack, it means you're guaranteed that it'll resolve even through an ambush. Now that the Drago shield is down, the rest of your creatures can go in for the kill. And if you want another layer of protection to make sure that Albert can't die, use Eleanor Queen of Storm for that protection against ambushes like Deathtrap and EMP. I hope you enjoyed the video and that I offered some insight into using Albert. It would mean a lot to me if you could offer some feedback in the comments on what you liked or disliked and what I can improve on. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.